So how did you get started in the competitive, I guess, Ironmanning?
Competitive Ironmanning
Yeah.
in triathlon. So it started back when I was a kid. I was, I don't know, maybe 10 years old, and I saw Iron Man on TV, and I
Okay.
was like, that's incredible. And I thought, those people are superhuman. And then it never even entered my mind that I could do something like that. I just wasn't kind of set in an environment to even dream those sorts of dreams. And so it was just, you know, something I saw and didn't think about until my daughter was born. And 5 years ago, I thought, I want my daughter to see me do this. And that's where it came from.
Yeah. It's amazing. I saw your daughter's name is Hero.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. I was at the gym this morning. I'm like, wow, what a great name. So
Yeah.
cool. You have to
Yeah.
become somebody, with a name like that. Like you're going to change the world.
It's a lot of pressure, and we
It
knew
is.
that going in. It was a risk, but luckily my daughter is an extrovert, big personality, and she lives up to her name. But it's interesting because hero, spelling Hero, obviously you have the heroic
Yeah.
element. But my wife is a Shakespeare professor,
Okay.
and hero is actually a female lead character in the play Much Ado About Nothing. And she's
Wow.
this really like strong, self-sacrificing, redemptive character. And that's why we chose the name for her.
Okay.
But she also has a larger than life type personality. So she lives up to both uses of the name.
Okay. No, that's super cool. So your journey here as an Ironman athlete, how's it been? You obviously we'll get into, what you're dealing with, personally from a health standpoint, but how has your journey been, as an Ironman?
You know, uh, Iron Man's tagline, anything is possible. I don't think they could have picked a more perfect motto, because that's what it really teaches you. So I wasn't, an endurance athlete before I started this journey. And so it seemed pretty impossible. The idea of doing 140.6 miles in a single day
Wow.
seemed like there's no way I could do that. Like going out and running more than 3 miles was a stretch. So to
Mm,
think 140, it was like, no way. But since diving in and learning the disciplines and learning technique and conditioning my body to see, wow, my body can actually do that. It makes me think to all sorts of areas in life, like, okay, I can learn this. And
yeah.
it gives you kind of a growth mindset of, okay, I might not be able to do this yet, but if I'm willing to put in the work, there are people that can get me there. If I
Yeah.
surround myself with good people, put in the work, anything's possible.
So do you think you could have done it without a coach? I mean, I'm sure you could have gotten through it without a coach, but what were some of your biggest takeaways in working with a coach?
Yeah, I don't think I could have done it without the coach.
Okay.
So my coach had the greatest line that she said to me. She said, Jay, the hardest part of Ironman is getting to the start line healthy. And to put your body through the amount of training you have to go through, the injury is so easy. And if it was left up to me, I would have overtrained, because it seemed like such a huge endeavor. So it seemed like I just had to go nuts. But to have a coach who had completed the race multiple times, competed at Kona at the championship level, she knew what it took. And so when she was able to tell me, hey, it's time to back off, I could trust her. Or if
Yeah.
she said, you need to push yourself right now, you're starting to slack. Of course, it's great to have that extra motivation that you get from a coach. But I found it invaluable also to have her caution me and say,
Yeah.
hey, you're doing great. Let's let your body heal. Recovery is just as important. We got to get you to the start line before we can get you to the finish line.
Yeah. Well, most people, I mean, I would say even myself, just hearing the intimidation factor that goes along with, go running that kind of distance and swimming and biking. It's like, where do you start? Where do you begin? And I would guess most people begin by literally just throwing on their running shoes and saying, okay, I got to get the run down. But what I've heard and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the swimming is the most difficult part.
I would say the swim has the highest learning curve. So
Okay.
if you're not a competitive swimmer going into it, which I wasn't, like I grew up in Southern California, so I grew up in the ocean, in the water. I was
Yeah.
comfortable surfing and stuff like that. But to swim 2.4 miles, that's insane. And so if you don't have the correct swim technique,
Mm.
you're not going to be able to go the distance.
Yeah.
So
It's
you
got
have
to be
to,
hard.
yeah, so you've got to learn, and it's not easy. It's a finesse sport. And so
Yeah.
I had my triathlon coach, and then I also had coaches in each specific discipline. So I had a swim coach that was with me at the pool critiquing my technique, and if it wasn't for him, there's no way. Yeah, I just wouldn't have made it.
Now, were you an athlete before this? Like as a young man, was sports a part of your life?
No, I played basketball because I was 6'2". I'm 6'2" now. I think I was 6'2" when I was in third grade. So
Okay.
so
So you had to play.
naturally, yeah, you got to play basketball, and I loved basketball. But I was raised in an environment that wasn't thriving. It wasn't healthy, and so as soon as I had the inclination of like, I think I'd rather hang out with girls than go to practice, I was out. So I played my freshman year. Played basketball. Our team was undefeated, and I had every reason to want to keep playing, but I just quit. And I've always been a part of, I've always been active. That's always been a part of my lifestyle, but definitely not an athlete.
Okay. So I have to ask you, you said you grew up in an environment that wasn't particularly healthy. What part of it?
Well, so my family was filled with substance abuse and mental illness. And
Okay.
so it just was really chaotic, didn't have the stability that's necessary to really build self-esteem and to dream those big dreams. I was just trying to survive. So thinking about thriving, that wasn't really there. I was just trying to get through every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there that grow up in circumstances like that. I mean, I appreciate you talking about it, but I think a lot of people struggle as a result of the environment that they're in, until they realize they don't have to struggle anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so empowering when you start taking those steps and you start breaking free of those chains and those patterns. And so that's why it became so big for me to do Ironman, because I wanted to recreate the experience for my daughter. So, here I am as a 10-year-old watching Ironman on TV, thinking, wow, that's exceptional, but never even questioning if I wanted to be a part of it. What I wanted to provide for my daughter was around the same time when she was about 10 years old. I wanted to have her watch me complete the Ironman so that afterwards I could say to her, hey, you can do this sort of thing. If you put in the hard work, you can do these sorts of things. This might not be your dream, but whatever dreams God puts in your heart, go after them. And your mom and I, we got your back. We'll give you the support needed to put in the hard work to go after your dreams. And so that's when, my daughter was born. I decided I'm going to do this. But then when I got sick, I didn't have 10 years to wait. It was like, oh, it's now or never. I need to get moving on this, even though it's more difficult to even try to attempt this while sick
Yeah.
than healthy.
How is your daughter enjoying the journey?
It was a little concerning at first with her being so young. Is she going to get it? If I'm trying to do this endeavor to teach her by example resiliency, to teach her by example to go after her dreams, and then also I wanted to dedicate my first Ironman race to her. Would she get the love that was connected to it with being so young? But the most incredible result of all of this is she totally gets it. She totally gets it. She understands that this was a grandiose display of affection for her. She knows that this race was her race. And she also gets that the reason why I did it was to show her to go after her dreams. And she can articulate those things as a 5-year-old, which blows my mind. She perfectly articulates all of the desires behind why I did this race, which just blows me away as a parent.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. So I wanted to kick off and talking with you just about, obviously you being an Ironman and challenging yourself and competing. But, for those that don't know your story, you're also dealing with something a bit deeper than that. I mean, the competitive challenge of completing an Ironman, so you get diagnosed with cancer. What is that like? Just from start to now. I mean, it had to be just a completely wild, you know, uh, journey. I don't know anything about it personally because I think it's each person's individual experience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, when you get the news, it's devastating. It knocks the wind out of you. It knocks you down. I remember it was a Sunday afternoon, and the neurosurgeon called me on his personal cell phone and said, "Hey, I'm looking at your MRI. You've got a mass in your brain. You've got a brain tumor." And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, "Well, we're going to need to go in, do brain surgery, try and get to it." And I was like, what? And I just remember I went upstairs. My wife had just bought a new dress. She was trying it on, and she asked me, "Hey, can you zip up the back of the dress?" And so I zipped it up, and then I just turned her towards me and said, "Honey, that was the doctor. I've got a brain tumor." And we just fell into each other. And
Mm,
she's been such a huge support emotionally through this. I've been really blessed to have her by my side. And initially, that was 2017 when I got the call about the brain tumor, but they weren't sure at that point if the tumor was malignant or benign. Is it cancerous or is it not?
mm,
Because with a brain tumor, they can't biopsy it because you got a skull in the way. So the only way they know is after the surgery. And so, sure enough, after the surgery, it came back that it was cancerous, and now I have brain cancer. And again, another devastating conversation where I sit down with my oncologist. She says, "Hey, we got the test results back from pathology, and you have cancer. It's terminal. This is what you can expect for average lifespan. This is your prognosis." And I'm very thankful that she didn't pull any punches. She gave it to me straight.
mm.
And that empowered me to say, okay, well, how am I going to live life in light of this new news? But man, it knocks you down, and it's hard to get up because it does just take your breath away. It knocks the wind out of you.
Mm.
But it was so important to me that if my daughter was going to watch me get sick, she needed to also watch me get up.
Yeah.
She was going to see me knocked down, and that's hard. I don't know what it is about being a father and not wanting your daughter to see you weak, but I didn't want her to see me weak. But I knew it was inevitable, and I just thought, but now I have an opportunity to show her what it looks like to get up.
Yeah.
Because originally with Ironman, I wanted to teach her to go after her dreams. Now all of a sudden that I'm diagnosed with cancer and going through treatment, I'm sick, I'm fatigued, I'm having all the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation and recovering from surgery. And she's observing that. Now I have the opportunity to teach her, when you're going after your dreams, you're going to get knocked down. Life is going to knock you down, but you can't give up. You got to hold on to hope. You got to find strength. You got to get up and you got to press on. And once I realized that opportunity, that's what filled me back up with hope and
Mm.
strength. And that's what allowed me to get up and to press on and to start training.
Yeah. And Jay, for you, you were what? Were you 36, 35 when you got this news?
Yeah, I was 37.
37. Okay. So a young guy.
Yeah, yeah,
You had, I'm sure when you didn't, I think some people view cancer as like something that older people get.
yeah, yeah. And typically with my specific disease, it's usually older people. When
Yeah.
I go into the waiting room, I'm typically surrounded with people in their 80s and 90s.
Okay.
It's very, very rare for somebody my age to be dealing with this.
Mm.
So yeah, it's very unfortunate, and yet I'm trying to find every possible way to leverage it to make it a way that I can benefit my family, my daughter, show love, and live life to the fullest while I have it.
Yeah. So this question that I have for you is how has it changed? How has it changed you? How has it changed your life? Because we know it has, but I just, I love, I want to hear through your words. How has it changed you as a person?
Yeah, well, probably the biggest change is I have lost the fear of failure.
Mm,
So I always wanted to not be afraid of failing and be one of those guys that, fail fast and always fail forward and, all the things you read about in books. But when it came down to it, I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be good at things. And I was always afraid of failure. And that was something that held me back. Now, for whatever reason, this diagnosis has just freed me from that. And specifically with Ironman, uh, I didn't know if I was going to be able to go that distance. Um, I, Even before I was sick, if you asked me, hey, do you think you can do 140 miles? I'd be like, I'm not sure if I can handle that. But then when I was literally, going through cancer treatment, I didn't know if my body was going to be able to handle it. Typically in endurance sports, it's all about your mind and
yeah.
the strength of your mind. But in my situation, that was part of it. But there's a reality that with the drugs that are flowing through my body might cramp up halfway through and it shuts down. My body might not be able to do it, but I wasn't afraid of that. What was important to me was making the attempt. And I thought, man, if I can just get to the start line and attempt to do this, if I
Mm,
can train through my sickness, if I can just keep getting up every time I get knocked down, that's a win. That's success. And if I don't make it to the finish line, that's okay. There's going to be great lessons to be learned personally, and then lessons that I can pass on to my daughter through that. Fortunately, I was able to make it to the finish line, and that's a much more fun way to experience it, to have that success. But it's been nice to be freed of that feeling of failure. And then also another thing that I have to deal with is just not losing hope of what could be in the future, while also having the courage to face what is right now.
yeah.
So I'm a man of faith, and in my faith, I have assurance that, hey, if it's God's will for my life, He's the author of life. He can heal me. He can give me life that sustains way beyond my prognosis, and that happens. It's a very, very small percentage of people that they're given this prognosis with brain cancer, and they end up going on to live decades beyond it. Very, very, 0.001% of people.
Right.
But I know that if God has a reason for me to stay here, He can sustain my life. And so I don't want to let go of that hope. But at the same time, I don't want to be one of those guys that is too afraid to face the reality of the science that's in front of them and only looks for the miracle. So
Mm,
I'm relearning how to live life in light of both. How do I make decisions that will benefit my family, whether I'm here just for a couple more years or if I'm here for a couple more decades?
mm.
Um, and so it's been a learning curve to figure out how to make those decisions.
Yeah, I find it. I mean, you're in an interesting position. I would say mentally. A lot of people today, obviously, they're worried about a lot of things that are not as important, right? But for you, how do you manage your own mindset when? I mean, I know you said you've eliminated fear, but there has to be some level of just even the unknown. Anticipating the unknown is a just a state that we can often get into. How do you manage that?
Yeah, man, I feel like my life has just been lived in the unknown for years now, where I'm always waiting for a test result to come back. I'm not sure how things are going to play out. I'm not sure what the surgery is going to be like. I'm not sure what the effects of this chemotherapy is going to be like. I'm not sure if I'm going to go this distance. And then throw the pandemic on top of it. All of a sudden, races are being canceled. I'm not even sure if I can find a race to compete in. Everything it feels unknown, and I know that I'm not alone in this. The whole world is there right now. How long is this thing going to last?
Yeah.
How am I going to sustain my family? We're living in unknown, uncertain times. And so for me, uh, fortunately, I already had a foundation laid for these sorts of times. And again, it goes back to my faith of, I feel like I've got a heavenly Father that's looking out for me. And so He's going to give me strength to face the day. He might not remove the mountains that are before me, but he's going to give me the strength to climb the mountains. So
Yeah.
even if I don't know what tomorrow is going to look like, I know he's going to be with me, and he's going to give me the strength that I need to face what I need to face.
Yeah.
And so that allows me to be steadfast in my days. But scary things seep in. I get scared. I get worried, and then I've got to ground myself back on that hope and that faith that I'm gonna have what I need to get through today.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, sometimes when you hear news like the news that you heard, you start to really get a deeper appreciation for life and all the people that are in your life. And it's like, man, it just must be amazing to have the day in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. There definitely is a zest for life. But I've always lived life to the fullest. I've always gone after things, and so it was funny because people will ask me about like bucket list, and I don't have a lot left on a bucket list because I've done a ton of things. I've already done the skydiving. I've
Yeah.
ran with bulls in Pamplona, Spain. I've snuck backstage at all my favorite concerts. I've had these experiences. Whenever there was something exciting before me, I'd go for it. But the new bucket list really has to do with relationships. It's experiencing the deep connection with the people that I love the most. And because of the fact that I grew up in this family structure where connection wasn't strong, I struggle in that area.
Yeah.
I've got a beautiful, gracious, kind, intelligent wife, and yet I find myself running into barriers of deep connection with her. Same with my daughter. I love her with everything in me, but I also am learning to, how do I connect with her deeply and really invest there? And so I'm kind of taking the same amount of energy that I invested into IRONMAN, and I'm trying now to invest that into my relationships and make sure that I'm having that deep connection. And so my daughter got to watch me do this race from a distance, and I got to set this example from a distance. But now I'm really trying to be shoulder to shoulder with her and do life together, where we go through this resiliency journal every day together and walk through like growth mindset practices. We talk through it, and then we do challenges together. So we're always, jumping off of rocks into water and, just pushing the envelope a little bit. And then a lot of daddy-daughter dates. Okay. And same thing with my wife, really trying to work on that connection, having rhythms of connection with her and making sure that that's priority. Today's my first day starting back at work. And so, just now trying to balance, okay, I'm back at work now, but work's important. I get a lot of purpose, a lot of meaning from my work, but number one is my relationships. Yeah. And so I got to make sure that I schedule my time correctly.
I think a lot of people today, they definitely put work first. We're in a very work first culture, but they always say, hey, when you deal with life stuff, the last thing you'll be thinking about is your work. You'll be thinking more about those relationships and the people that that mean the most to you. Right.
Exactly. And so I'm trying to really be wise about that and make sure that my priorities are straight.
Jay, we know Jay the Iron Man. We know Jay, who's dealing with the cancer diagnosis. But who were you before that?
Yeah. So professionally, I was and I still am a pastor. Okay. And so I grew up in this home, like I've made mention to it many times already in our short conversation. It was not a religious household at all. And kind of my saving grace was finding this healthy church environment where I had good friends and good mentors, and I had a weekly message of hope and new purpose in life. And so that really changed my course of life. And so I ended up saying, hey, I want to help people that are in my similar situation. So I found the church when I was in high school. So I was a high school youth pastor for a long time. Wow. So helping those kids in late adolescence figure out their faith and get a handle on life and where they wanted to go in life. And that was super fulfilling. And then in the last decade, I went and launched a new church. And that's been really meaningful because for whatever reason, maybe it's because I don't come from a church background. So it's not like my dad was a pastor and his dad was a pastor. So we meet in this old packing house. Doesn't look like a church, real kind of hip, vibey space. Yeah. And people walk in that typically wouldn't go to church and they have a new experience. Or we get a lot of people that went to church for a lot of years and just got burnt by the church and kind of walked away saying, I don't want anything to do with religion. And then for some reason they give us a shot and we're able to give them a different experience. And so that's been really, really meaningful to be a part of that. And so now I'm just starting to enter back into that realm, but it's tough in this pandemic with my health, my immune system's low. So we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
It sounds like you will. It sounds like you figure things out.
Day by day, man. It's we're taking it on a daily basis for sure.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you talk, I feel like that's most of us. I mean, yeah, you have the diagnosis, but at the end of the day, I think many of us don't know what the future brings. And those that do, I mean, they're special people. I don't know what tomorrow brings. I mean, the weather folks certainly don't know what it brings unless you're in Southern California. Yeah. Blue skies and sunny. But, there's a lot of just, the future is, we don't know what it is.
Yeah. And again, I was fortunate that faith became a part of my life because I'd already thought through a lot of these things before it hit me. I can imagine if I wasn't thinking through how am I going to handle things like death, there would be a real crisis. So luckily I'd already had a framework of thought of what I thought and believed about things like that. And then it also allowed me to say, okay, what opportunities are here? This isn't just I got a diagnosis and so it's time to fold and turn in my keys. This was okay, so what now? What new opportunities are there? How can I still find goodness in my day-to-day life? And I think athletics really helped me maintain hope, because when you're in a situation like that, just naturally you get pulled towards depression.
Yeah.
But in training, you're releasing all these really great endorphins and positive chemicals. And I believe that was a key to keeping my hope up and to keeping a positive attitude. And if you talk to anybody that has a chronic illness, having a positive attitude is the biggest piece of the game. And so for me, athletics becomes a huge part of that routine.
Yeah. Well, you're competing every day. You're competing, and now I wanted to ask you, do you see yourself now as an athlete?
I don't know. I'm not sure. So in this time of the pandemic, I was originally signed up to compete in Australia, Ironman Australia. That race got canceled. Then I deferred my race to a race in Northern California, in Sonoma. And then that race got canceled. And then Ironman started doing these virtual competitions. But they didn't do a full distance Ironman virtual race. And finally, they came to me. I'd been in conversation with them. I was part of the Ironman Foundation. I was one of their sponsored athletes. And so they came to me and said, hey, we're going to do our first VR full distance Ironman. Do you want to participate? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And so I was able to actually race in Orange County, and it was really cool because I got to swim at Newport Beach where I would train anyway. And then I arranged the route. So I ended the marathon right in my front yard. So I literally ran home to my wife and my daughter, and then a lot of friends that were there to support me as well. But it was this magical moment. So I did this VR race, and then Ironman has invited me to come next year to their Kona World Championship race and race there. And so I am asking myself, is this something that I'm going to continue on? And to be honest, I don't think I'm going to be continuing the full distance Ironman, because chemotherapy has really done a doozy on my digestive system. And I found that late in the race, I wasn't able to absorb all the nutrition that I need to absorb throughout the race. And so I don't know if full distance is for me. I know I can do it. I have done it. But I think I'll probably move towards the traditional classic Olympic distance triathlon from now on.
Okay.
Am I an athlete? I don't know. I still.
I'm gonna tell you, you are. Yeah, listen, you're a competitor, right? I always say, like, my whole pitch is, you're a champion, in what you do. So, you're going after victory, and you're bringing a whole lot of people with you. So that defines an athlete to me.
Yeah, well, thanks, man.
Which I think
I'll receive that.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think what you're doing is definitely motivating. Somebody sent me your story, and I started to read all about it. I said, man, that is amazing. Because how many folks, come up with a million excuses as to why they can't even get started on anything, and you said, hey, I had these cards dealt to me, but there's still something left that I want to do. There's something that I want to prove to myself. I want to show my daughter. I want to, show the world, whether you realize it or not, you are, which is very cool.
Yeah. And it's been a cool experience for me, because I set out to show my daughter. That was the full intention of that. But then as my story has been spread, more and more people are taking notice, and I get more and more direct messages on Instagram of, hey man, this is where I'm at in life. Got your story, super inspirational. And that adds a lot of meaning to my life, to know, like, okay, the things that I'm doing, it's helping others. Yeah. And that helps me get up in the morning and give 110%, because I know it's not just for me. And it's not even just for me and my family, but now it's for anyone who would be watching, so I love coming on shows like yours. So thanks for having me, man.
No, thanks for coming. It's the mentality of, if Jay could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
If Jay could go run or be a part, be an Ironman, then I can certainly go do 30 minutes on the treadmill, or I could certainly go, do something, that I may not want to do in this moment. So, you become a beacon of hope for people, just, day to day, moment to moment.
Yeah. And some people, will put it in kind of a negative phrase of, well, what's my excuse? If this guy is doing it, what's my excuse? But I like the positive side. And this is what I said to my daughter: if I can do it, you can do it. Yeah. And I truly believe it. I'm nothing special. Like when we started off, I'm not a lifelong athlete that, oh yeah, sure, I'll just go do an Ironman real quick and then no big deal. It was like, I'm just a regular guy. Yeah. But I had a dream, and I was going to go after it. And if I can do it, my daughter can do it. And anybody that's watching can go after it. And of course, it has nothing to do with triathlon, but it has everything to do with the dreams that God puts in everybody's hearts. There's a reason why those dreams are there. They're not just selfish, like, oh, I just thought it would be fun. Because honestly, doing 140 miles didn't sound like a lot of fun to me. But there was this fire and this dream, because I knew that it had purpose and meaning behind it, and every single one of us, we have that inside of us. And then it's just deciding, I'm going to go after it. And timing has a lot to do with it. I could have done this 5 years ago, or I could have waited, but the time was now for me. And I knew I got to do this right now.
Yeah. I'm sure you felt like, I need to do this now. It was a feeling, a calling that said, I need to do this now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the worst timing possible, like I said, you were absolutely right when you said, you imagine the first thing people do for Ironman is put on a pair of running shoes. And that's what I did. I was in Houston at MD Anderson, my first day of radiation, and I put on my running shoes. The humidity there was insane. It was like 99% humidity. So I got a membership at a 24-hour fitness, and I just ran on their treadmill. And, doing a mile on the first day of radiation, that was a stretch to pull myself up and say, I'm going to do this. And then by the end of my 5 weeks of radiation, I was doing 20 miles on a treadmill, which that's a long time to run on a treadmill, but there was just a drive to it. and it just continued to build and build, and I kept going with it. And yeah, like you said, there was a calling to it of,
Yeah.
I don't know what tomorrow will bring. And even though I'm at my weakest state, I've never been more weak than I've ever been in my life. Right now, I'm going to start training because I don't know, tomorrow I might be weaker.
Yeah.
And a year from now, I might be weaker. So in my weakness, I'm going to see what kind of strength is there. And I found a lot of strength.
Yeah. Strength that you probably never would have discovered if you didn't go through this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't know that it was in me. Didn't know it was accessible, but now I know that it's there, and it applies to so many areas of life.
Yeah.
And it's accessible to everyone.
Jay,
It's
it
in
sounds like though
everyone.
too, you're doing it without I mean, I don't, the way you're speaking, I don't find that you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. It sounds like you're just really, it's almost like pulling you as opposed to you forcing it.
Right, right. Yeah, and that's a big piece of it, because I'm done chasing after things. We chase after a lot in life,
Yeah.
but I don't have time or energy for chasing. But we're also called to steward things.
Mm.
And when there's a dream put inside of us, we're called to steward that. And so I'm done chasing, but I'm trying to make the most of it. And when you steward something, you can be a lot more flexible. You can pivot and change when you need to. When you're chasing something, you've got this idea of what it's got to be and what success is, and you just, no matter what, you're just going to put your head down and grind forward. And sometimes you can just be hitting a wall over and over again, and you're not smart enough to stop, pivot, and go around the wall. You just try and break through it. But yeah, trying to steward something, it's more like, as each day comes, okay, I'm going to give my all, and let's see what comes of it. I'm going to take the opportunities that come my way, and I'm going to have the conversations that open up for me, and who knows what will come of it.
Yeah.
And every day, something new.
Yeah. Which I bet when you take the pressure off, or when you took any pressure off and you started to become, more of that steward, I bet you more things started coming to you.
Oh yeah,
You know, you,
absolutely.
yeah, you become a magnet for all different things.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. And it's so much more enjoyable too. One thing that I loved about my coach is she would often say to me, "This is supposed to be fun."
yeah.
Right? Like, we'd be looking at what the next workout on my docket was, and like, okay, I've got a 7-hour training block tomorrow, and it's going to be, I was training during some really high temperatures throughout the summer. Like, oh man, it's going to be 100 degrees, and I got a 7-hour training block. And she'd just remind me, this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
And just hearing that phrase would put me in a much better mood. And yeah, not having the pressure of, I don't have to be anything. I just I need to enjoy the ride that I'm on.
Yeah.
And I developed a motto for myself, a mantra really, during the race, where I kept saying to myself, I don't have anything to prove. I just have an example to set.
Mm.
I don't have anything to prove. So, there's times, and in endurance racing, you're always like, you've got your plan, and then you're trying to listen to your body, and then you're trying not to let your ego get in the way and sabotage everything. And so not having that pressure and just being able to tell myself, you've got nothing to prove. You don't have to do it in a certain time. You don't have to make it to a certain marker. You don't have anything to prove. You just have an example to set. So it was more about how I was doing it, how I was going about it, than what my stats were.
Yeah. Nah, that's super cool. Cause today, I coach a lot of individuals, that are, these classic, type A high performers, and they're amazing people and they can do amazing things, but they put so much pressure on themselves that I feel like that's what costs them, greatness.
Mm,
So I appreciate you saying that, because, you're just in the moment, you're giving whatever you're doing your best. And as a result, you're finding yourself in a better place.
yeah, yeah. And I find with professional athletes that I watch, I tend to gravitate and be the biggest fans of athletes that seem to love the game,
Mm.
and seem to just not lose sight of the fact that they're playing a game, and that it's an honor that they get to make a living playing a game, and they
Yeah.
love it. And that joy is contagious, and I think, as you're talking about your athletes that you train, Yeah, I think there's got to be something to it. When you really love what you're doing, it allows you to take it to another level.
Mm.
That if it was just you felt like you had to do it, it doesn't give you the same motivation, you know?
Yeah. Well, even like, if you look at life as if it's a game, it really is at the end of the day. I mean, it's a game, and really it's how you approach it. I write kids books in addition to, some adult books I've written. And on the back of one of my books, it says, every day you could either win or lose. The best part is you get to choose.
Mm,
And it's a message that, hey, every day we get a chance to choose. And for you, it looks like you're choosing, you know, to do your best every day.
yeah, yeah. What's the name of some of your children's books? Give me some
Well,
titles because I want to
yeah.
check it out, go through it with my
So
daughter.
yeah, well, don't worry, because I'm going to send you a care package with them. But I wrote one for actually a friend of mine. He was a volleyball coach, and the title of the book is Disco Desi Inspires the World. And what I did was I wrote the book for him as a tribute. He got bad news, and he knew that he wasn't going to be here forever. So I
Hmm.
wrote a book so he would last forever. And it's a book that teaches kids how to deal with, maybe a sick friend or a sick family member, and how to deal with that. So I wrote a book like that. Another one is called Mighty Molina, which is based on my niece, but it's about teaching girls that they don't have to compete with each other, but they can play together.
Hmm.
And I have two more. One is called Johnny the Jet, which is a book on bullying, and another book which I just released on it's a unofficial tribute to Kobe Bryant, because I love the way he approached life, and it's called Bryant for the Win.
Hmm.
So
Dude.
don't worry, we'll take care of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But
I'm telling you, man, as I just continue to take opportunities, so many good things present themselves. And this whole conversation was worth it just to hear about the books that you're writing.
yeah,
Because dude, I can't wait to get a hold of those and work through that with my daughter. Because that's where I'm at in life now. I set the example, but now I need to have these discussions with her. And books have become a huge tool where we read together and then we discuss. And she's a bright 5-year-old that is able to grab a hold of themes and truth and really apply it to her life already. So I'm gonna take a look, man. Thanks for
yeah,
writing me.
no, absolutely. I write books as a way for parents to communicate with their kids. So I love the way what you just said, because it's exactly that. It's, how do you have conversations with kids about real life stuff so you can prepare them for what life is going to bring their way? And what I find is that as much as the child benefits, the parent benefits, because the basics, the fundamentals, as we get older, whether you're 25, 35, or 55 or 65, life always goes back to these basic fundamentals, and we have to keep them in front of us at all times.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, even our talk today, I mean, you spoke about a lot of fundamentals of life, believing in something bigger, knowing you can, setting an example, challenging yourself, competing. These are all fabulous lessons.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have this time to communicate them with my daughter and to really make sure as a father that I'm transferring those fundamental values and lessons to her. So
Yeah. It gives you strength every single day,
yeah, absolutely.
which
Absolutely.
which is super, super cool.